Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on air pollution, sources, effects and mitigation. In this lecture, we will be discussing something inherent that many of the plants have. Like our bodies, we have a immunity, right? If I just compare with you human immunity, okay. So, this is very important. We have all heard about that if the immunity is high, then the person is less prone to the disease. Okay. Now, this is if I just use the same analogy. Now, it depends on how our body reacts with the different kind of pollution that are there in the environment. Of course, there will be the mechanisms mechanisms will be slightly different, because our mechanisms is involved inside our body, and there are inside our body there are many organisms, there are many hormones and then enzymes, they will be affected or they will be affecting our immunity system. And the perfect example of immunity systems we must understand that probably during the COVID time we all discussed that okay, the persons which has very high kind of immunity power, they sustained this COVID, and those who didn't had this immunity power, they could not survive, or they were actually affected severely, or kind of. So, depending on the immunity of the person, the effect of air pollution on human, we will be discussing these lectures in another lecture about very specifically on the effect of air pollution on the human health and how the exposure doses are calculated and other things. So, we will be discussing that one. Now, in the plants, plants do have similar kind of mechanisms, otherwise you can just imagine that okay, if there is no mechanisms, how the plants will survive. In fact, there are many of such plants which are actually used to cater the air pollution. So, if there is a high air pollution, those plants are planted. You must have heard about indoor air plants and then outdoor air plants both. They are actually effectively they can be used to overcome the air pollution. Now, this is in the previous lectures we discussed that if this is a leaf, so you have something like stomata and other things in that one, and then what will happen? You have air pollutants. Air pollutants where will go first? They will enter into stomata. Okay. Now, depending on the size of the stomata and size of versus pollutants, especially the particulate matter, this stomata can be actually either suppose this is the size of the stomata and then the particle is here, or depending that particle size is big. So, it can partially cover the stomata or it can completely cover the stomata, that depends on these two things, size of the stomata and size of the pollutants, that is very important. Now, this is the case for the air pollutants, particulate matter, but suppose the gas, there is actually gas. If we have a gas pollutants, what will happen? This during the basic function or the important function of the stomata is to take CO2. Okay. So, basically it will intake the CO2 through the stomata and do the photosynthesis. Now, and then photosynthesis also required water from this one. So, this water can either come from the roots, which is mostly coming from the roots as well. So, this stomata will have kind of liquid that is already there. Like in our body, we have human body has pores, different pores are there. So, depending on the pore size, whether the particles can interact or not, that will be so when we will discuss this one dermal inhalation. During the dermal inhalation, it depends on the particle size and the size of the pores, that whether the how deep it can penetrate in your even in the top layer of the surface, or on your hands, or or the skin actually. So, similarly here what will happen, and then the chemistry begins once they are inside the system, right. Here if it is a gaseous pollutants, what will happen? Gaseous pollutants, they directly interact here, okay. Directly interact, then what will happen? This CO2, and depending on this composition of the liquid and then type of air pollutants, whether it is actually acidic in nature, just remember these two things, acidic and basic in nature, and then composition of the stomata or the liquid that is there in the stomata, that will be affecting the chemistry and then photosynthesis as well as the plant's tolerance. So, just remember this concept that so in order to cater, how to measure this one? This is another very big problem, because it is not possible to measure the stomatal size. So, usually we measure this liquid composition is usually measured by stomatal conductance, we say, okay. We measure by stomatal conductance. So, when we measure stomatal conductance, you can get the information about the composition of the stomata, or you can do the measurements, but because of the liquid is very small, this requires a kind of larger sampling and then doing this one. So, like in the case of human systems, how do you basically calculate? For human, we will have something like exposure dose, and this exposure dose is actually like deposition of the air pollutants on the stomata. This is similar to this one, and how much is deposited depends on the stomatal size, size of the plants, and then what is the size of the leaf that is there. But here there is actually, if you have just to go in the medical terms, you have to go and measure this what you call immunity power, okay. So, there are immunoassays that has to be conducted on your samples, blood samples, and then you can see that how much actually it is, whether you are have a very good immunity system or not. Now, the same question happens, that how to calculate the air pollution tolerance. So, how whether the a particular plant or species is tolerant to the pollution or not, it will be depending on this one, okay. So, how we quantify these things, this will be discussed in this lecture. Similarly, this is another big, for example, I said that liquid composition, pH becomes very important here, because depending on the pH, if it is acidic in nature, if the pH is acidic, then what will happen? It will be not good for the plant survival, and plants can actually can be destroyed, and usko I do not know, we call it jhulsa or we call it pala, okay, jhulsa. So, it is because when there is a deposition of excess liquid or kind of moisture containing the high pH or low pH, basically acidic in nature, and depositors on the leaves. So, these can be actually in the previous lectures we discussed, especially on the leaves which are very what you call soft and which can be very easily impacted. So, in this one the plant it is measured by the air pollution tolerance index, okay. So, effect of air pollutants on the plants can be analyzed by calculating the air pollution tolerance index, and this expresses, what is APTI? It expresses the capacity of a plant to battle against contamination or air pollutants, okay. So, you can say here that whether it is air pollution, so it will try to battle against this air pollution and it is very simple equation. So, APTI is given by A into T plus P plus R. So, you just remember that the multiplication is between T and P. So, first you add these things T and P and then multiply by A, and then you actually use R. Now, A is ascorbic acid content in the leaf. This is and this ascorbic acid is actually what is it is a vitamin C. So, in human body you remember that our grandparents or even doctors and everybody will be suggesting that if you have a weak immunity, you eat foods which have high vitamin C. For example, you use amla, you use nibu. Okay. These are the very good source of, even tomato is a source of vitamin C. So, the plants actually similar to our body, plants also have ascorbic acid in it, and this ascorbic acid helps them to fight against the air pollution. So, what will happen? This ascorbic acid, if it is as you can understand that if the ascorbic acid content is high, then what will happen? The plants APTI will be more. So, this means when we will discuss these things, okay. And this ascorbic acid is given in concentration of, in the leaf is given in the concentration of milligram per gram. So, you take say for example 10 gram of leaf and then you measure the ascorbic acid content in this one, and then T is the total chlorophyll, okay. So, chlorophyll is a measure of health of the planet, health of the plants. Very basic parameter, like we have actually blood pressure and sugar. These are the two parameters that we usually use to understand whether somebody is healthy or he is going to have some kind of, if your blood pressure is high, these are kind of indicators. So, our chlorophyll actually you can measure that one, you have to measure. Or similarly, people in ancient times or even people now, by looking at your nails, by looking at your face, teeth expression, mouth, and then what you call these things, actually they can tell that whether you have a good immunity or not, or you are suffering from a particular disease. This can be done, okay. Then P is the leaf extract pH, this is very important. So, here you see that if the pH of the sample is high, air pollution tolerance will be high, and high pH means basic in nature, okay. So, plants do not prefer the acidic in nature. So, acidic they do not like acid, and of course, acid because our body also do not like acid. Our body, we have heard, okay, if you eat something which is containing lots of, which can create acidity, so we usually take, okay, anti-acidic tablets we take, or we take medicines in that regards, okay. So, you can see that one, and then R is percentage R, or R is actually relative water content in the leaf tissue. So, this is another very important thing, because this will depend and this will decide what kind of reactions and what kind of reactive oxygen species will be generated in that one. So, APTI values categorizes into sensitive and tolerant groups, we will discuss this one later, and then sensitive and tolerant group, and then air pollution helps to understand response of air pollution at biochemical and physiochemical level. So, this is very important. So, they help us to understand the response of air pollution at a biochemical and biophysiological level. Again, so thus just a suggestion to all my MSc and PhD students that this becomes a very important topic, and this is going to be still there in our research areas for another few decades or so, because we still have not been able to understand that how different types of pollutants behave differently, what are the biological biochemical changes and physiological changes that are happening because of the particular air pollutants. One air pollutants might be actually good, but other might be very bad for them. So, this we also understand. So, we discussed about the ascorbic acid. So, you see here ascorbic acid is like the composition is given here, you have OH groups, and then you have a aldehyde, ketone, and then this one. So, you can see the structure here, and is a reduced form of vitamin C. So, ascorbic acid is what? Actually, it is a reduced form of vitamin C and a water soluble natural antioxidant. You remember, this is so what is ascorbic acid does? It is actually reduced form of vitamin C, and vitamin C is very important for our body as well as for the plants, and it is a water soluble natural antioxidant. So, this is very important. Okay. So, this is going to fight against the reactive oxygen species formation. So, this will actually limit ROS formation in the plants, and which by thereby they will be actually reducing the kind of effect of air pollution on the plants. So, a strong reducing agent and provides stability to the cell membrane. How it does? It provides actually the stability to the cell membrane. Okay. The level indicates the oxidative stress and scavenges free radicals that affect enzyme activities. Okay. So, its level, so if the concentration, this means if the concentration is high, it means there will be a low oxidative stress, there is an inverse relationship, and what it does actually, how it reduces the oxidative stress by scavenging the free radicals that affect the enzyme activities. Okay. So, increased rate of production of ROS during photooxidation of SO2 to SO3 minus results in higher level of ascorbic acid content. So, this means now we have heard, we now understand that SO2 is actually air pollutants. Okay. So, if the air pollutants enters in the stomata and it will during the photosynthesis, this will lead to increased rate of production of ROS. So, it will lead to the increased rate production of the ROS, and this results in high level of ascorbic acid content. So, this is very important, and this is why we need to understand all the concept, and you can see that SA increase in the plant tolerance against ozone as well actually. So, ozone is also oxidizing species. So, it is basically what any photo oxidizing species or oxidizing species is there, it is going to create problems there. Okay. Resistant plants contain higher ASA than sensitive plants. Okay. So, this means in a way vitamin C, which is an actually natural form of reduced form of vitamin C and natural antioxidants, it actually higher concentration is resistant resist the plants actually from the air pollution effect. So, there is actually avoid kind of things. So, it nullify the effects of air pollution on plant growth. So, if the and you have the sensitive plants like mutton, peas and then potatoes, these leaves are very sensitive plants. So, in this one this effect becomes very common. Then total chlorophyll in the plant's leaves, you see we have different kind of plant cells, and within the plant cells you have chlorophyll and chloroplast. If you are interested, you should read this one, basic physiology of the plants or leaves. So, chlorophyll is a chief photoreceptor in photosynthesis. So, what is that actually? Photoreceptor means it is the photon that is produced by the solar radiation. So, this HNU, this HNU, because this is actually photoreceptors, and this photoreceptor is used in the photosynthesis. So, this means if the plant does not have a chlorophyll, what will happen? It will not be actually having more of photoreceptors. So, if there are not more photoreceptors, it will not absorb the solar radiation. So, if there is no solar radiation or less solar radiation is absorbed, then photosynthesis will be hampered, it will be reduced. It is primary importance in evaluating the impact of air pollution on the photosynthesis. Okay. It value gives information about the physiological status of the plants. So, higher actually chlorophyll means good health of the plants, low means it is not good, and then you have to supply other kind of nutrients for that one. We will discuss that what are the nutrients that are needed in coming few lectures. So, pH of the foliar, this is also very important. The plant extracts from the roadside showed acidic pH due to the air pollution. Now, you see because in the urban area roadside, so because we have high air pollutions, that is coming SO2, that is coming from the vehicular emission. These vehicular emissions produce this SO2 and NOx, and these especially this pH will be mostly affected by this one, and then against it will be neutralized by the dust that is actually there, road dust, because road dust is actually is basic in nature. Okay. And these two will be producing acidic acids. So, this one is producing acid. So, plant extracts from the roadsides, they have been found to have low pH, because they are acidic in nature, they have been found to have a low pH, okay, compared to those in the urban area are away from the roadsides. Okay. pH of the foliar extract is an indicator of the development of detoxification mechanism in the plants necessary for the detoxification. So, actually it is, this means what it does actually. So, foliar extract, the pH of the foliar extract will tell whether there is the plant is the detoxification mechanisms in the plants is doing properly or not, and it is necessary. Okay. How it is necessary, this will affect this one. Sites with more stress due to higher degree of pollution have relatively lower pH of the foliar extract. Okay. So, this is very important. So, if you see the stress, sites in the plants and then in the leaves, if they have more stress due to high degree of pollutions, they will have relatively lower pH, means they will be more of acidic. So, this is what I have been discussing this one. So, the SO2 and NO2 as well as ozone is actually oxidizing species. So, if they are present in the excess amounts or above threshold level, they are not good for the plant health. Okay. Then the third point is actually relative water content. Now, another very important thing is that how actually like our body does the self defense mechanisms. We say that whether our body is dehydrated or dehydrated. So, if you are dehydrated during the summer season, because the ambient temperature is much higher compared to our temperature of our body, what will happen? The energy, the water, the body will try to actually cool, and during the process it tries to cool, it will release lots of heat, and once this heat is released, these water molecules will be released from our body, and then they will be released as our body from our body. So, once they are released, they are also very important, that this mechanisms is also very important for our body to not only to maintain the kind of temperature in the body, but it also helps to remove the or helps to detoxify our body. So, it removes pollutants that are also there in our body. Okay. So, actually relative water content is a moisture holding capacity of the plant. So, and it is the same thing I discussed about, that it tells about the hydration condition of the leaf. So, if whether there is a sufficient water or not, higher energy increases resistance in the plant. Okay. So, some not all the plants, some plants are there actually which actually if they cannot survive in the high water content, okay, even in the field. So, but if the plants generally with high relative water content, they seems to be more resistant in the there seems to be more resistant. Air pollution affects plants relative water content and disturbs the transpiration rate. This is what actually. So, we also have similar kind of things. Okay. Transpiration it will be affected. Okay. RWS loss from the leaves due to accumulation of PM on the surface of level and of the dissolved nutrients. So, why it is loses actually? Because of the accumulation of the particulate matter on the surface of the leaves and then dissolved nutrients that I discussed in the previous slides, in the very first slide. So, RWC has been found higher in the foliar of the polluted sites. So, now what actually it does? So, it tries to overcome the air pollution, and during this process these foliars of the leaves, they try to accumulate more water. This is what is happening there. Okay. Generally, when we say if APTI, as we say we use the equation APTI was actually what A into T plus P into R divided by 10. Okay. This was the equation, I think, yes, T plus P into R. Yeah. So, you can in all the cases you see that if you have high ascorbic acid contents, APTI will be higher. If you have total chlorophyll higher, APTI will be higher. pH higher, APTI will be higher. Now remember again, and then R is actually, what was R? R was relative water content. So, the relative water, all are proportional, except that just remember these things. Actually, this equations, although it is a empirical equation, this is not a kind of empirical relation, because if you see the equation of this total chlorophyll and pH, then they are not same. So, you cannot, in principle, any physical quantity which has different units, they cannot be added here. Okay. So, in that way this equation is a kind of empirical. Okay. So, just remember this one. So, if the APTI value is low, means the plant APTI value is low, means plant is not tolerant and it will be very sensitive. So, if there is a increase in the air pollution, the plants may not sustain or it may not be productive. Between 16 to 1 to 16, it is called sensitive. So, they are sensitive, like we also define our body whether we are very sensitive, and 17 to 29 is actually intermediate. So, somewhere actually, and between 30 or more than 30 to 100 is tolerant. So, now the next question that should come to your mind, that what kind of plants should be planted in India which can battle the air pollution. So, plants with high APTI values are more tolerant and they should be planted. Examples of plants that can be used for the green development projects, like Arjun, Moros, Sesam, Asoka. Naam is the name, the botanical name is also given. Arjun is actually Terminalia arjuna. Okay. Morus alba is Morus, Dalbergia sisu is Sesam, and then Polyelthic longifolia. I am sorry, I am really very bad in botany, so don't think that I am probably I am not able to pronounce the name even. Okay. But yeah, because we have to understand many things, and this is why this lecture is very important for you, that you should understand all the things actually little bit. But since I did not study until only until 10th, I studied botany, kind of basic science, general science. Then in BSc we studied PCM, in intermediate we studied math. So, there was no chance of studying botany. So, that was one of the worst thing that I think being a interdisciplinary researcher or scientist, I like that. So, yeah, you should not do that one, you should learn these things. Okay. More number of plant species can be studied for APTI. There are lots of species that should be studied for the APTI, and this will help the policy makers to select more number of plants species suitable for grain development plant. These are the few listed, there are many actually. In the next slide I think I have, yeah. So, you can have Pinus storbus, Ficus religiosa, then have Alstonia scholaris. These are actually high APTI or tolerant. So, if you plant these kind of plants, they will be actually, even the air pollution is high. Of course, the first thing should be that actually we should not have high air pollution, but if it is high, these kind of plants can be very actually useful. Okay. So, thank you. I hope I was able to give some message and the information on the air pollution tolerance index, how it is calculated, and what are the factors that are affecting these things, which plants are more tolerant and why they are more tolerant. This also we discussed. For MSc and PhD students, I told that this is one of the very fundamental research that needs to be done, and if you are really interested, you should jump in this field right now, because it is one of the very highly, because we all have we all are facing with the high air pollution levels in country, and then if we have to overcome this air pollution, we need to understand the mechanisms that are there. So thank you so much, take care, and then we will see you in the next lecture. Bye.